Tens of thousands of people have taken to the streets of the German city of Hamburg to protest against the far right. It follows revelations that members of the Alternative for Germany party held a secret meeting to discuss the mass deportation of immigrants and German citizens of foreign origin. The AfD is under domestic surveillance in several German states, and there have been calls to ban the party entirely.
The streets of Hamburg overflowing with protesters, giving voice to the post-war German promise of never again to right-wing extremism.
I'm actually demonstrating for the first time in my life. I myself find it threatening. I know stories from the Nazi era from my grandfather, and I don't want that to happen again.
Protests erupted after it emerged that Alternative for Germany members and neo-Nazis met to discuss plans to deport millions of people with migrant roots, including German citizens. The party's leadership has tried to distance itself from the so-called master plan. But the revelation has sparked nationwide outrage, even prompting Chancellor Olaf Scholz to join a protest in his hometown of Potsdam. He said the plan for mass deportations should send a shiver down people's spines.
I'm saying it clearly and bluntly. Right-wing extremists are attacking our democracy. They want to destroy our cohesion. At a secret conference, these extremists discussed how they could expel millions of people from our country.
And it's no empty threat. Polling shows the party in second place, a worry for many ahead of state elections this year. More demonstrations are planned for the weekend, as calls to ban the party entirely grow louder and louder.
I'm now joined by DW's political correspondent Thomas Sparrow in our studio here in Berlin. Thomas, I can't ever recall seeing so many people take to the streets against far-right extremism and racism here in Germany. Can you explain to us why people feel the urge to do so now?
Because they feel the urge to protest, to go to the streets, and to make sure that the political reaction to these revelations that not only come from the courts or from political parties in the German parliament, but that it's also a response by different groups in society. And that's why all across Germany, it's not only Hamburg, but in many different cities in the country, people are actually going to the streets to protest because they do not feel represented by what was discussed in the meeting. It's important to stress, Michael, that the AfD may be polling at around 22-23% nationally, even higher numbers in the eastern part of the country, but that leaves a majority of people who feel that they do not feel represented by those policies or by those ideas that the AfD has presented in different scenarios in the German parliament, in regional parliaments, but also in meetings like this. So this is basically how German society has decided to react to those revelations.
What more do we know about this so-called meeting? What factions or groups were represented, and what exactly did they discuss?
So extremists, neo-Nazis, members of the far-right Alternative for Germany, both from a federal level, from a regional level, also a couple of members of the main conservative party in Germany, the CDU. Business people met, and that happened in November in the city of Potsdam, so near Berlin. And that was a meeting where these plans, this master plan was discussed to deport people from Germany, send them to an unnamed African country. And obviously that brought back memories of Germany's dark history. It was actually not far away where in 1942 the Nazis discussed their final solution for the Jewish situation. It was also, by the way, similar to a plan that the Nazis also discussed to send millions of Jews to an African country. So you can see that those similarities, that these descriptions, that this plan is something that has obviously shocked Germany to its core.
Goodness gracious. Thomas, as you well know, there are increasing calls to ban the AfD, the far-right AfD, I should keep repeating, altogether. Is that even feasible? Is it realistic?
Well, feasible, yes. It is something that is actually contemplated in the German constitution, that a party can be banned if it is confirmed that it's a threat to German democracy, and that there are clear actions that demonstrate that threat. But it's a very difficult hurdle. Only twice in post-war German history a party has been banned. It was both in the 1950s. Calls to ban, for example, the neo-Nazi NPD party failed in recent times. So it is something that can happen. The question whether it will happen is a different one. And there are many here discussing that it would actually benefit the AfD to have such a lengthy process where they would be in the news all the time, where people would be discussing that, and where the success at the end is not necessarily guaranteed, because we've seen examples in the past where it took a long time and in the end it wasn't successful because of those hurdles. And that's why the reaction to these revelations has come not only from a possible legal level, if you will, the possibility of banning the AfD, but also from a political level. All other democratic parties in the German parliament have rejected this. And then also, obviously, from a social level, from society. And we saw that in the protests that have happened and that will continue to happen in the next few days.
Interesting. I mean, the party could certainly claim victimhood in a so-called democracy. Thomas Sparrow, DW political correspondent, many, many thanks as always.